the authorities said it was for treatment, but those being sent there knew or perceived the whole thing as punishment due to very, very small infringement of the law of Norway. And you found, later I found in other studies, exactly the same of special schools for young delinquents, that they felt also deep injustice in these measures. Very often it also, particularly with those with alcohol problems, they belong to the lower class of Norwegians. They're Skid Row alcoholics. And it was, of course, social service they needed, not imprisonment. And I think some of this way of looking at it could be converted to the drug arena, where it also, to a large extent, in my opinion, it's a question of using measures against drug users with a great similarity to what we did against those with alcohol problems, and where we systematically, here more visible than in other arenas, hit those of the lowest status in the Norwegian society. But that is, of course, also with the prison population in general, that population, that is, as one of our students formulated it in a good way, it is a population of those who have too much of nothing. Lack of education, lack of money, lack of house, lack of decent family relations. So it's a very handicapped population, which brings me to another theme. And that is that this, if we want to remain as a sort of decent welfare state, we have to keep the prison population as low as it is possible to keep it. And so I have belonged to a large group in Norway who intensely have attempted to show that the prison population needs other alternatives than prisons, that they are damaged by being in prison, which is obvious. I mean, the prison is the university in how not to behave according to the wishes of the majority. And in the case of Norway, that we all the time have tried to present those who have ended up in the prisons in the framework of being more usual human beings. They are poor, but they are not, again, not the monsters. Thomas Mathisen at our institute has been, of course, a very expressive spokesman for this. And also this organization, Krum, who arrange seminars for prisoners, prison guards, intellectuals, and others up in the mountains every winter for several days, have helped to remove the category of the impossible and transformed it into the category of ordinary human beings. And also in general in our institute, that has been a very strong trend in the thinking there. Yeah, I wrote a little book called Crime Control as Industry some years back, and that book again came a bit by chance to my attention. I was visiting somewhere in Canada, I think. I was placed in a place where it was a lot of young people living, and I got a chance to sleep there in this house. I got the bathroom to sleep in, and here, by chance, someone had forgotten a journal. I found it now when we should talk. It is something called Corrections Today, and this journal, it was not this issue, but it was an earlier one, was filled with, in a way, advertisement for all the tools you use in incarcerating human beings. I have never seen anything like that. And it was also a whole section on the coming conference they should have, and all the things for sale in that section. I understood the economic importance of this phenomena of imprisonment, both the state prisons and, of course, even more the private prisons. And I start to look into the US arena for imprisonment, and I started to look at the whole global situation when it came to imprisonment. And it is so clear that the prisons, they are a picture of much more than crime. They are a picture of social organizations, and it tells you a lot of the situation to look at the prison figures in a comparatively perspective. I had been in on this already very early as a student again, because I was interested in comparing prison figures in Scandinavia, and I came to me, very surprising conclusion at that time that Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, we had very, very low prison figures, but Finland had so enormous prison figures. And I happened to tell that in Finland once on a seminar, and they were not aware of it themselves. But what was so important in understanding the function of imprisonment was to see that they changed it nearly immediately. And why did they have so many prisoners in Finland? Because Finland had been politically a part of Russia to a large extent. And they had built up a prison system with Russian models. And for a long period, again, Skid Row alcoholics from Finland were sent to Russia for such institutions as we also had here in this country. They changed it without, as far as I can observe, any great changes in the sort of crime situation in Finland. Then they belong now to the sort of Scandinavian tradition. And then we have the Western Europe, which they have a bit more prisoners. We have 60, 70 per 100,000. They have around 100. But then, when we go further east, the prison figures creep up and up and up until we reach Russia, who is the leader with more than 600 prisoners per 100,000 inhabitants. We have 1/10 of that in this country. But of course Russia is not the gang leader, it is United States. And that is where I found these fantastic things and really got triggered off to look much more in detail what happened in the United States and how could it be that Canada was so different. Canada is a Western European country when it comes to imprisonment. It's fantastic. And you can see this relates to some basic thing, particularly, I think it has been clear by several new studies, particularly one Finnish I have in mind, showing that the question of belonging to a welfare state, with the culture of the welfare state, is here very, very important to keep the prison figures down. And here then again, this is very much up to the forefront of what happens now, namely the position of England and Wales, and also Scotland, who are increasing their prison figures to an astonishing extent. I'm so fond of saying, if I can, publicly in England, that you are now approaching Eastern European standards with regard to the great prison population you have. And if you want to belong to the ordinary welfare state societies, you should rather return to Western Europe or to Canada, who seems to be close related to. This has been some of the important things I could add that people will, of course, again and again confront a professor of criminology. What should we then do?